All right, guys, welcome. We're so excited to be a part of this meeting today. You know, it's been such a fun journey the last 2 months having these town halls. We're in a position where, you know, we love doing what we do. We love being together as entrepreneurs, and we're facing a very serious situation regarding our industry. To be really clear again, this, for those of you who are new and joining us for the first time, this monthly town hall that we do is really meant to make movement over motion. Does that make sense? Like, there's been a lot of talk about the industry, a lot of talk about things to change, how things need to change, and so on. And I love what they do at PPS. I think they do a fantastic job of like helping identify and bring solutions. And it's not enough. Like, we have to generate way more from within the organization of physical therapy in order to make effective changes. I also think there's some powerful opportunities for us who are maybe not acting underneath an official umbrella of any sort. Like, we're organizing in a way, but we're not like a government body or a specific organization. So there's some things that we can do and talk about that we would be limited in another way. And as you guys know, there's so much talk about it, but there's very little action, very little. And we talked about this a few months ago as to why that's happening. So before I continue, let me lay some ground rules. First of all, be the first to share. This is not me or our guest speaking at you today. This is going to be a true town hall where if you want to contribute at any time right now, you can cut me off. What you want to do in your Zoom call is, if you go to the bottom, there's reactions and there's a raise hand function. Do you see that? So if you raise your hand, it will pop up. You can also lower your hand. And so please, like, don't feel like it's rude to raise your hand. Michelle's going to help moderate. And I will do a brief intro there for those of you who are new. But essentially, this is a real town hall. We just want to be able to come and go and be able to talk and get some progress here. So again, the concept is movement over motion. What do you guys think I mean by that? I want to make sure that I'm speaking, but we're on the same page, and I want to warm you up a little bit.
For me, that means just instead of just stirring up the waters, it's like creating a wave in the right direction. So it's like there's movement. We're not just creating motion and random thoughts and considerations, but we're actually targeting that in a direction that's going to create change or impact change in the right direction.
Man, I love that. So, you know, another way of saying it too, to give it some additional color, guys, is that we're all busy, right? And we can stay busy. One of the worst things I hear is like, how you doing? Oh, I'm busy. Every human being, especially in America, is super busy. PT owners are especially busy. And I'm not just saying that to placate the group. Having been one for, you know, well over a decade and then stepping into other industries, I totally get it now. The burden of the PT business owner is no small thing. And I was told this once by one of my coaches. He said, Will, got to get out of PT, man. It is a horrible business. and by the way, he's a medical professional who owned PT practices and hospitals. And he would just say, why are you doing this? And I just told him, I was like, man, listen, this is my heart. And this is all of your heart. Like, this is why there's the one thing that unites us. That's really our strength is the passion, like the commitment to wanting to make a bigger impact in this world through individualized relationships. Like that's this common thread. So the thing that we have to be careful of, though, is that, like, when we don't know what we don't know, we can be actively engaged in a good cause called running our business. But we don't necessarily, that doesn't mean we're going to progress, right? That's why we're talking about movement over motion. What are the things, the actions that we can take, not just talk about it and really kind of get all rah about it, but like, what can we say and do that not only inspire, but inspire to act in an organized and efficient way? So that's what we're doing here today. So really excited to have you guys here on the call. Looks like we have a big group this time. So
Seth just made a mention in the chat. So another way of putting it is action over activity, right? So
yeah. 2 points, Seth.
Yeah.
Two points.
2
Yeah.
points.
Also use that chat group, man. Like we've got this chat group available. I see Carrie there. Good to see Carrie and Kristen and Clay, Jamie, Katie. This is so great. So listen, if this is your first time on this call, let's practice. Raise your hand. If this is your first, and if you're on a cell phone, Ross, don't worry if you can't raise your hand, buddy.
Again, look at
Ross
that.
is physically raising his hand.
Raise my hand.
If this is your first time, all right. Katie's, it's her first call. Who else is it? Just so we can see.
Okay, Denise, William.
William Hamilton Jr. William, do you go by William? No worries if you can't answer. Kristen, it's her first time on this call, but definitely not her first time to talk with this guy. Very nice.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. So
William goes by Billy.
Billy. Billy. Very cool.
Billy. Yep.
Very cool. Nice to meet you, man.
Welcome, Billy.
So very exciting to have everyone here. So listen, I want you guys to think of a couple things. Number one, more like housekeeping items before we get into the meat of this. Again, number one, raise your hand. And for those of you who still have it up, see if you can lower it now. If you have it digitally up, there you go. You'll see that it stays up there pretty much indefinitely. You can also do other reactions, since this is kind of one of those things where maybe you don't want to like interject, but you just want to give them a little love or celebrate or whatever, you know. So at the end of the day, also you can leverage that chat. So Michelle is going to, very good, Sturdy. 10 points to Sturdy for being, that's what happens when you see your, reimbursement from United Healthcare. You see that every time. Oh yeah, little PT humor. Only PTs would get that joke.
How do we take it down though? Oh, there it is.
So yeah, if it's any other icon, it just kind of falls off on its own. And yeah, so leverage the chat. Like if it's one of those things where you don't necessarily want to take stage or you've got a lot of noise in the background and you don't want to so please type in the chat because we want to make sure we progress this thing in the way that this group wants to do. Remember, my job isn't to provide you guys with value. This is a town hall. All I want to do is create a stage for us to stand on to discuss the core issues, and then the entrepreneurs, the only men and women on this planet who can solve this problem, are going to come together and create. So I would really appreciate that you spread the word. Go get other people on next month's call. Like, I know I'm spamming all your emails and you still showed up anyway, but I want you to tell anyone from your company. This is an incredible opportunity to engage your company as well, by the way, if you're currently treating or if you have a practice where you can get your own PTs dialed in and your practice becomes the flagship of the movement. They'll understand and have more cultural connection to your company if it feels like your company is also taking a stand in the industry. And to be really clear, there's no financial exchange around this at all. If you saw my YouTube videos from 3 months ago, I'm just literally clearly seeing where we're going and it's not good. And I do have some information on that. That's even worse. So I'm going to share that here in a little bit. Yeah, it keeps getting better. So yeah. Someone chime in. Someone say something.
They said, "Thanks, Will."
You're welcome.
Thanks, Will. Good news.
This is going to be a No, it's not depressing. What's funny about it is no matter what I share, you guys already know what you already know. You've seen what's happening. You see the model. You look at your profit at the end of the year. You already know where we're going. But there's so much good news on the back end of that. And that's not me trying to correct. There's literally so many positive things, but it's going to require us to all be together. So that all being said, let's go ahead and warm up a little bit. Who here has any wins? Has anyone here, or really, let's just share a couple of wins. You can put them in the chat. You can raise your hand and speak them out loud. But like in the last 30 days, what's something in your practice that's been a positive change or something that you've accomplished or your team has done? It could even be personal, whatever that might be. So let's just get a couple of people to contribute.
Blaine, we've got hand raised by Blaine.
Mr. Blaine.
So I'm a little bit embarrassed to admit this, but I very much fall into the category of just being so busy that not paying attention to important things, KPIs. And so last week I finally had a meeting with our billing team, and they actually figured out how much we're receiving per visit. And for 2 years, I didn't even know that, which is kind of sad. But we have a meeting next month scheduled to try and increase that.
Give them some love. I love that. You can
Nice.
give it there, or
That's
look,
great.
there's a little icon called the hand clap. I love that. Give them some love for that. And by the way, that's the most common way people and PT owners share their wins is like, hey, this is embarrassing to admit this win, but like, that's how most of us share our wins. Let's do a couple more.
I've got some in the chat. We've
Let's
got
hear
one from Denise that says we've increased our workman's comp visits and referrals.
Nice, Denise. Love that.
Yeah, that's great. And then from Katie, clearly identified great people to develop a leadership team beyond me and my practice manager.
Love
That's a big
that.
step. Big step.
And Seth says something as well. What does he say, Michelle?
Yes. It says got Medicare approved as a Part B provider
On
today.
the way.
Yes, still a
Congratulations.
Part A provider as well. So
Well, I know Katie will be happy to hear that. Katie, I don't know if you can jump on, but I wouldn't mind you saying, having a 2-second spiel as to what you do, since it might affect what everyone here on the call is doing. Would you like to jump on, or is that for maybe next time?
I guess I'm not muted, am I?
No.
Okay, I'm in my car, so my son's at basketball practice. What do you mean? What do I do? All the things?
Yeah, let's hear all the things. Just tell people what you do, because you also have a company that might impact them. I just thought since you're here, we'll let you speak.
Sure. So I own two clinics, and adding a third one this year. But I also own an EMR company as well for the past, 5 years, called Hino. So we work with people like me that run practices or starting practices or growing practices. So we certainly see all of the challenges across many different practices across the country, which is very enlightening.
mhm.
Thank you, Katie. Sure appreciate you chiming in, and thanks for being here today. So guys, all right, now listen, here's where we are in terms of, I'll start with the bad news, then we'll go into the good news, and we're gonna turn some time over to our special guest, Sturdy McGee, who's here, a good friend and someone I've been fortunate enough to know for a long time. Many of you probably already know him as well. There's not a lot of people in the industry who are well known, so I'm sure, and he's one of them, so you probably know who he is, but I'll do an intro in a minute. So here's an interesting little bit of the bad news. So I had an opportunity last week to participate in a healthcare conference that was all about biotech. So I was very fortunate to be a part of this conference. It's part of my business networking group. I really wish I had brought Michelle, as a matter of fact, now that I'm saying this. So it was a YPO event. Sturdy will know what that means. And so these are men and women who are CEOs up to billion-dollar companies, and like me and like some other smaller level entrepreneurs were invited to participate because we're in the healthcare setting. So I sat in this room with hundreds of these powerful leaders all across the range, especially in healthcare. And the speaker was a guy by the name of Peter Diamandis. You may not know that name, but you'll know some of his companies and his partners. He's partnered with somebody named Elon Musk. He's partnered with another guy named Tony Robbins, if you're familiar with who that is. And he has 8 New York Times bestselling books on health. He has 12. He's a founder of 12 different companies that are all large $100 million plus companies. And they're all in the healthcare space. He has an MD from Harvard, and then two PhDs from MIT. So he wanted to be an astronaut. So kind of took him down this road of improving health. And this is actually really good news I'm about to share. But the reason I kind of frame it like the bad news is because in this climate of declining reimbursements, and in this climate where PTA reimbursements getting cut, the healthcare industry is about to pivot in a big way, more so than we've ever imagined. Like, his exact wording was, in the next, we're not talking 10 years, in the next 5 years, things are going to shift so dramatically that there'll be 2 types of companies that exist in healthcare: companies that work with artificial intelligence and those that are bankrupt. And so if you're not familiar with artificial intelligence, don't feel overwhelmed by that just yet, because it's just emerging. But there's Chat GPT. I can put that website in there. Right now, you can go in there and interface with artificial intelligence at a level that will blow your mind. And so when it comes to healthcare, he was revealing how so much of this is just positive. Like, they have artificially AI robots that are performing orthopedic surgeries. neurologic surgeries. And we're not talking about like 1 or 2 robots. They're in this position now where the robots are being tested against human capabilities, and they are dramatically outperforming the human surgical counterparts. And so right now, if you go into ChatGPT, you can say, I have a lumbar herniated disc. Please give me an exercise protocol for that condition. And it's scary accurate. So what the AI does is that it's not like a Google search. What it does is it goes and it reads the entire internet on everything that's ever been published, every research article, everything. And then it summarizes it, puts it together, and then spits it out. And so with this type of technology, what's basically going to happen is a lot of healthcare is going to get put into the hands of patients. Peter Diamandis showed this demo of a cancer doctor, an oncologist, who typed in the evaluation from one of his patients in the morning into this AI system that all of us have access to for free through ChatGPT. He put it in there, and it did a full analysis of the person's condition, prognosis, and treatment protocol. And the doctor is this like top renowned oncologist is like, guys, I'm out of a job, and he was being facetious. But the point is this, is that like for us, we aren't going to go away. The cool thing about what we do is that there's a hands-on component that will not result in our industry being abolished. But with all of this change going on, the biggest thing I think we're all aware of is that if reimbursement doesn't change, that's the scary thing. And that's the main battle we still want to focus on, but it's important to be aware of what's coming down the pipeline and how these things are going to be affected. And in my opinion, and many others, physical therapy will have a chance to either rise to the top of the medical food chain or diminish into some watered down version of what it is today. And that's really all we have, is that chance. I mean, there's really no middle ground as a profession for us to go to the top or not, because healthcare is becoming so proactive instead of reactive. PT, OT, speech has a chance to really get ahead of this curve and leverage technology and biotech to be the front leading healthcare. But it won't start unless we can start taking a stand for how we get paid, right? As one guy told me today, this one investor in PT companies was telling me, he's like, yeah, it's so great to see that a patient can go to a physical therapist and spend $150 a visit cash to get the treatment they need instead of spending $500 to go see a orthopedic surgeon who's going to inject. There's just so much potential of what we have here. So that is the bad news, and the good news is that things are shifting dramatically. Again, we already know the worst news is that reimbursements are on a decline. And so for today's meeting, we're going to talk a little bit about one strategy in particular that all of you guys can take home today that's going to dramatically change that game for you. And any chance we can make a decision as a group that is going to like not just increase our reimbursement and our freedom and leadership, but also promote our industry, that's where we want to start. The greatest good for the greater dynamics. We want to make those decisions that are going to have the greatest impact across all of these situations. And that's where our special guest comes in today. So let me tell you about Sturdy McGee for the few of you who probably don't know who he is. Sturdy McGee is a physical therapist and a private practice owner in San Francisco. But he has progressed in his leadership through coaching on his own into becoming a leader in the industry. And so what Sturdy does now is a range of things, the most impactful of which is coaching. He has helped PT practice owners and other business leaders in other industries increase their income, their impact, and their freedom. He's also a very big voice of the profession as a whole to take a stand for what we do here. He has a wonderful family of 3 children, happily married, and a great guy. So without further ado, I would like to pass the time over to Sturdy to talk about a concept that he has been working with some of his clients that's had a huge impact. So put your hands together for Sturdy, virtual hands, whatever that might be. Sturdy, it's all yours.
Thanks, Will. As Will said, this is definitely a conversation, and you're speaking my language with the entrepreneurs as problem solvers and implementation. The whole idea around action, knowledge without implementation is nothing. It just doesn't, it isn't worth much, right? Nobody cares what you know, they care what you do. So whatever you do today, since you're spending your time here, I would urge you to think about at least one, if not 2 or 3 action items, things that you can actually do and implement in your business or for yourself, so that things can you can continue to move forward. When you guys go and look at ChatGPT the way it is right now, it doesn't search the internet. It is based on a database that ended in September 21. It's scary, crazy what it can do so far, but GPT-4 is going to be coming out, and they're uncertain on the timeline because of the ethical implications and misinformation potential, and its complete inability to deal with emotional type things. So they're trying to figure out how they can do that safely. But GPT-4 promises to be released sometime this year. It's based on a database that's 570 times larger than the database for 3. And it will be able to go onto the web and look at other stuff. So if you're typing in stuff right now that, like the cancer doctor, and well, it's funny you brought this up because I wasn't even thinking about this in the whole context, but I was talking to a client this morning. We were talking about that, and I'm going to run all over the place a little bit. It really offends me and upsets me that you guys get paid by the hour. Okay. And it always bothered me that as a therapist, we billed for our time. That always bugged me from pre-PT when I was doing billing and working in the PT office. It's a knowledge-based profession, so you should get paid for the value that you bring, the knowledge that you bring, and a big part. So Matt and I, my co-author on this book back here, we were just talking about our marketing efforts and stuff, and he was looking at the Harvard Business Review journals, and they have a format of problem, root cause, and solution. And the root cause piece is one of the things that you guys are extremely good at, right? Think about that person with leg pain or numbness, or can't raise their arm, or whatever it is, right? The problem is I can't raise my arm, but there's a differential diagnosis. There's all this. There's work to be done on the root cause part of things, and that's going to absolutely determine the solution. So what's happening right now, though, is people are typing in their symptoms, the problem, and they're getting a solution, which may or may not be accurate. And I think that's where the human element and your expertise and knowledge, and just like what I do with the coaching and businesses, you can type in, create a marketing plan, or why is my cash flow low, or whatever. And it can give you ideas on what to do, but it doesn't diagnose. And that diagnostic is an absolute critical thing. And I think a big part of your value proposition, going forward. So
I agree. That's great. I didn't realize that. I must have seen when he was doing the demonstration, it must have been an earlier or more the unreleased version of that.
Because he may have access. Yeah. Peter may have access to that for demo purposes. There've got to be people betaing it and stuff. So what do you guys want to talk about? What do y'all want to? What's important? I know kind of what was billed, but is that the topic? Is that what y'all are interested in? Will, do you want to? There's some nods, but
so in the last 2 months that we had this, the first month we had this meeting, the discussion was very much like, hey guys, let's just talk about the problem. And it went super powerful. Carrie Hall, who's on this call, was there for that meeting, and she was a powerful contributor, just talking about, we identified the out points in our industry, from language usage, like the language that we use that sets us up for the mindset that's limited, down to reimbursement concerns. And so over the last 2 months, just so everyone gets a little bit of an update too, what I've been doing is I've met with a couple of different groups. One of them is local here in Arizona. Another one is outside, where we're identifying situations where PT owners have banded together to fight lower reimbursement. So I sent an email out at the beginning of this month regarding a couple of companies that we had found. And it's amazing because we're not changing federal policy, obviously, but we are preventing the private payers who usually follow those federal policies. There are groups that are stopping them dead in their tracks. There's an OT who's been on the call the last 2 times. I was really hoping she would be here today. She and like 4 other OTs have helped block a number of different policies in Colorado, I think, against lower reimbursement for PTOT and SLP. So right now, this is a PT specific, not specific, it's more specific to
Majority.
PT, but it's, yeah, but really we want this to be the general discussion for all three of these groups since they get tied together and bundled. But yeah, so
Well-
for this one today, I think people would like to know, I'm guessing, Sturdy, that the reason they're on this call is because they saw my emails about, hey, let's talk about how to stand together for the profession and also increase your revenues. And you know, I'm very familiar with what you do in that regard.
Right. Right.
I talked, before you continue, I'll tell you, my partner in Alaska, Nathan Shields, he's like, we should create a hashtag that says drop UHC. And I looked into it, and apparently that's illegal to do something like, I mean, I don't get it. I don't know why there's anti-collusion laws that exist out there that I don't understand.
I can do it. I don't own a practice anymore, and my license is expired.
So can you explain real quickly why we can't do that? Do you know why we can't do that? Like, what is that?
I don't know that we can't. Okay, so one of the things, this is something for you guys, anytime you're talking to an attorney, they will always tell you can't, or they will always give you the most conservative interpretation of whatever it is. What I learned to do, both with attorneys and accountants through the 20 plus years of owning a business, now 25, 30, whatever, was ask them, what happens if? Okay, so when they like to tell you something, and part of that comes from, I don't even remember what the thing was, but I remember I was asking, oh, can we do this? And the attorney kind of freaked out. Oh, no, you can't do that. It's against the law. I'm like, oh, what law? You know, I was kind of pushing back, like, that doesn't make any sense. What law is it? And he's like, well, it was passed here and whatever. I'm like, okay, when was it? Like, what are the penalties? Well, they haven't written those yet. Like, okay, so it's a new law. He's like, well, it's about 5 years old. I'm like, wait a minute. So the regulations, they haven't written the regulations with it. No, they haven't finished them. It's 5 years old and they haven't finished them. And you're telling me I can't do it. What happens if I do it? And he's like, well, I don't know. I'm like, there are no regulations. What happens if I do it? Nothing. Could, I mean, potentially something that happened retroactively. The law was passed, but the regs weren't written. It was like, it just didn't make any sense to me at all. So what I've learned from that is particularly with accountants and attorneys and with a lot of other folks, bankers, you name it, they're all going to give you the most conservative interpretation. And the one answer I just absolutely won't accept is you can't. You know, well, I can, right? What happens if I do that? Well, you'll go to jail for 30 years. Okay, well, I'm not going to do that. Right? That's an easy answer, right? But I want to know what the consequences are. I want to be more creative. I want to figure out things. And that's one of the things you guys do. You know, you're entrepreneurs, you're visionaries. You literally are visionaries. Yeah, Peter Diamandis is a visionary, but the thing about that is you see things that don't yet exist, right? You see a future that doesn't exist yet. And one of your challenges is taking that vision and painting a picture and, you know, making sure that other people can see that picture. You know, regarding UHC and stuff, tell me I can't do it. One of the reasons I can't do it is because we can't afford the attorneys UHC for it, right? UHC last year, actually, I don't know in 21, okay? Anybody here know what UHC's profit was in 2021? Carrie does. Carrie
Take a
gives
guess.
us-
Carrie, what
give
is
us a
it?
shot.
I'm not going to give a number, but Rich Katz said at PPS that their profit, whatever it was last year or the year before, was greater than their total spend in OT, PT, and speech. Their net profit.
Yeah, their net profit, their final, like, you know, profit, right?
Katie guesses 20 billion.
Yeah, Katie guessed.
Katie's close. She's very close. Then the profit was 24 billion with a B dollars.
So again, putting
Right.
that into perspective, though, because what does that mean to us, right? We don't know what.
Our industry
number,
is 50.
Pardon?
Our industry is 50.
The entire industry is.
Our industry, physical therapy, rehab
We're a
is an
$50
industry,
billion industry.
including the hospitals, SNF, outpatient is around $50 billion.
Right. And so I think what Rich was pointing out to keep a perspective is that within UHC, their net profit was greater than their total spend.
Well, it'd
in
have to be,
OT
yeah.
speech. So I mean, it's like they're again, you know, their game is to limit healthcare, not to provide healthcare.
Right. Insurance, you're carrying, oh my gosh, you're a ringer, right? Insurance companies don't make money by spending, right? I mean, the whole system's not set up to use the money for what premium payers think it's supposed to be used for, right? They make their profit by not paying bills, period.
In how many ways do they not pay their bills, including delaying, you know, misbilling, blah, blah, blah. There's so many ways aside from just the fact that the care seems to be restricted sort of, you know, for no rhyme or reason at times, you know, that.
Right.
Oh,
So-
it's intentional, Carrie, just to jump
Very
in. I knew
Yeah.
it's funny. What's funny is, you know how like everything's really political now? Like you can't, you know, I like glasses. Oh, you're a glass wearer. Like everything is so intensely political now. You know, the one thing that unites us, I say this all the time, man, health insurance companies are evil. And I know that's like dramatic and like has a religious connotation, but I say that and literally everyone I've ever said that to goes, totally. And like we just, and I don't, so like the thing that could bring our country together is this fight against insurance companies. And it's funny, owning a medical billing company, as an owner, I knew it was intentional. I had no idea until we got our hands deep in the pot. Like it's so funny because like there's this one insurance where we literally, we bill out the claim, we send all the correct information over, we wait 1 day, it's in our policies. We wait 1 day and then we resend everything so that the rejection that comes immediately from them, not like it was evaluated, and most of the time, it's 100% of the time it's automated. This rejection comes the other way saying that what we sent was incomplete. So all we do is we take the same documents, we send them in 24 hours. And that's how, like, it's all these stupid inefficiencies that they're very smart. Every little bit that they can do to delay things results in greater profits to them. And it's so overt and we all accept it. And in PT, we just take it. Unless you're William, who just put into the chat about 10 minutes ago that he dropped Cigna because of Ash. Let's give him some love. I think that's the kind of decisions we have to start making as individuals to start changing the industry for sure, is to stop taking it. Like, I don't think there's anything complex we have to do. Like, it's like, where do we begin? Stop taking it? Like just, and not like we don't have to band together and sue UHC or anything like that, but you know, Sturdy, what's been your experience around like dropping insurances and stuff?
Yeah, it's market forces, right? They're all on a lowest bidder model. In addition to denying your claims and delaying and obfuscating and everything else, they're trying to sign contracts for the lowest dollar amount. And you know, they don't care whether you can make a profit. They don't care what your education is. They don't care about any of the rest of it. They care about, do they have enough people in their network to satisfy the insurance commissioner? You know, and Blaine, as you figured out what your revenue per visit is, the next step is to figure out what your cost per visit is. And then look at your profit margin and then look at, do you have any contracts that are lower than your cost per visit? You know, it gets really, really simple and Denise, I see your hand, so hang on 1 second. When you talk to people and break it down, like if you had a hamburger stand or a lemonade stand and it cost you, let's use lemonade, it cost you $1 a cup to make it, what would you charge, right? The math is pretty simple. It would be over $1, right? If I came along and offered you 70 cents and told you I could make that 50% of your load, or I could double your business at 50 cents a piece, would you take that contract? And again, it's super straightforward and simple. No, I wouldn't. I have owners want to just emotionally debate and argue. They have to take it. They have to take it. I used to love it when my competition had to take it because they were losing money faster.
Denise,
Right.
That's a good pausing point. Denise, what's your question? Or
Oh,
comment?
it's just that it was a comment on with the cuts that we've had in Medicare. Now then, United is a better payer per unit than our Medicare is in our reimbursement.
Jeez.
Yeah, so we get $85 a visit. So it's 28.45 for a unit. Well, we have units less than 20 from Medicare and the Medicare replacement plan. So it's like now there's a little bit of a switch in that. And then the other comment is this, like, why do we even say the word reimbursement? I think we're just so, I've been a therapist for 38 years, just this conditioning. Why do we have to get reimbursed and fund this time? We've just accepted this reimbursement instead of just like, why is it pay us when we do the work like everybody else does.
We want bursement. We just want bursement.
Yeah, we just want the bursement, no re. Yeah.
That's so great. Sturdy, what's it? And this is maybe for everyone and Sturdy, but why, you mentioned your client who's afraid, who like doesn't want to like, why do we take insurances that are underpaying us? Like, what is it? Sturdy and everybody, like, why do you think that is?
I think it's, yeah, go for it.
I was going to say, I can tell you why I did. And it was to make, when I started my practice, it was to be able to take as many insurances as possible. So it was easy for my referral sources to be like, oh, I don't need to see if they take them or not. I'm just sending them there.
Perfect.
Yeah, we solved that problem by telling all the referral sources, we will check their benefits. We will tell them their benefits with us. And if they absolutely cannot come see us, we will tell them which of the groups, or whoever in network we would go to.
So you would control that. You control it either way, like send everything to us.
Right.
If we don't take it, we'll push them to whoever else.
Right. We'll spend the extra time to do the benefits checks. We'll tell you, Michelle, you come to us, it's going to be X amount of dollars, insurance is going to pay this is the price. That was the other big thing about going out of network. The only thing we did differently, and I swear to God, you guys are going to go and ask me 17 questions. Everybody always does. The only thing we did differently was we set our prices. Okay. We checked benefits, we did authorizations, we billed the insurance, we, all the other things. The only thing different was we took control of what the price point was. So if UHC is saying $85, we're like, nope, not taking $85. It's going to be $150 or $177 or whatever the number was, right? And UHC is going to pay what UHC pays. That's why we check the benefits. They're going to pay $65. Okay, your portion at time of service will be the difference between $65 and our price. That's it. Okay, and yeah, we took control of that. We would give lists and we would tell the physicians, referral sources, send them to us. We'll check their benefits. We'll give it, run it, what we just said to you. And if they're like, well, hey, I lost my job and I wish I could come to you guys, but I just can't. Fine, send us over a list of who's in network with your payer, with your insurance, and we will tell you. And where it got interesting was there were a few times where, and I know how this happened because the front desk or whoever would bring it over to me and say, who would you send them to? I'm like, oh, they could go here or here. And sometimes it'd be like, well, they're across town. That's not convenient. I'm like, then come here and pay us, right? There were other times where it's like you're looking at the list and going, yeah, I wouldn't send my mom to any of those places, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. We're so commoditized that it looks so much. We've had this discussion every time we're on this thing, but it goes without saying that people don't try dentistry. They've tried physical therapy, and all of those outlying therapy companies that aren't capable to do what you were probably able to do are getting thrown into the mix of in consideration. So I think it's powerful to think about that. So that's a real reason. It's one of many reasons I wanted Sturdy on this call. One of the main things is that he's been coaching PT owners on how to do it. And it's so powerful. What I've seen, there was a client that he and I shared in Nevada who went through this journey, and it was cool talking to him after. I met him after he had worked with Sturdy. And again, like it was one of those things where it was almost like this empowering, hey, guess what? I cut out this insurance and then here's my net margin now. We're seeing fewer people and making more money. Like there's something about the realization of what that looks like. And I was telling him, I'm like, yeah, but what's cool about that is that, yeah, you're making more money and you're not working as hard, but that you're finally taking a stand. The biggest thing we talked about 2 months ago is that our industry, unlike every industry in healthcare, I would argue we are the most fear-based industry in healthcare. Your license is your livelihood. We're going to get sued, even though our insurance policies are like $400 a year for millions of coverage. Like I mean, it's ridiculous. I remember like the first 5 years coming out of school, convinced that if I'm not careful with the units I put down, I'm going to jail. And I just remember thinking like, this is not going to do well in jail. Like I kept thinking, there's no way I want to go down that road. And it's so ridiculous, the degree and fear that we have. And so there's no judgment on any of you. I did the same thing. I never dropped in low paying insurance when I used to have my practice. Michelle and I, when we ran it, we kept everything because we knew like in our minds, it was just easier to not confront it, even though it wasn't. Carrie. You're muted.
No, there we go. It wasn't hitting. Sturdy, can you explain again what you said about the paying the differential? Because I think what you said was not the way I received it, because my understanding said if you're in contract, if you're in network, you cannot accept cash from the patient beyond what that contracted rate is. So I don't think that's what you meant, but that's what it sounded like to me. Can you re-explain your strategy when you were talking about United Healthcare or whomever it was?
Yeah, you don't sign the contract.
Right, so you're out of network, but you said something about you asked the patient to pay the differential, something.
Well, of course, yeah, we set our own price point.
So to be clear,
Again,
she's talking about, so just to be clear, so let's say it's, like, give her an example, like how much, give her a physical, like.
Yeah, I'll give an example, but the whole point is when you sign a contract with Aetna, Cigna, UHC, Blue Shield, whoever, you're agreeing to their price.
Exactly.
I'm not obligated or controlled by a contract I did not sign.
Right.
So I can charge whatever I want.
Correct. But
the insurance company, 90% of the time is still going to pay something.
So can you give an example of what that could look like, Sturdy?
Sure. Yeah. So, I'll give you a real one, right? It was 207, this is a few years ago. We were at $270 for an evaluation, 207, and 177 for follow-up, okay? When we called, again, it's the same exact process you guys use. Give them our tax ID, check the benefits, they tell us what they're gonna pay sometimes, right? Again, it's the same exact process. Sometimes they hedge and whatever. But you figure out, your best guess based on past, payment from that group and what they tell you, and write it down and record the time and the date and the person's name and everything else in the phone call. And that they cannot guarantee it because they say they can't guarantee it. So how can I guarantee it? So you hedge all your bets, you put it all down. If UHC is going to pay $20 and your portion today is $157. So whatever the price is minus what they said they're going to pay, which is exactly the same thing you do. The only difference is you're taking the price point that they gave you, not the one that you decided on.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Is that clear?
Yes. Yes. It just, when you said it before, it made it wasn't clear that you were out of network with that provider. So it sounded like you were asking them to pay.
Yeah, no, I thought that was the premise. That's the premise. We're not not signing the contract, right? Or we're opting out of the contract. And for us, I started in the late 90s, incorporated and partnered up and stuff, 2001. We were in network with essentially everybody at that time. But that was a point in time when Cigna was paying $130, right? And when I don't remember what UHC was paying, 128 or 143 or something like that, right? So, in early 2001, 2002, if you're getting $140 from the insurance company, why wouldn't you accept that contract, right? Now you have a margin. The problem was when UHC came back and said, oh, we're going to pay 67. When we immediately said no, we just sent it back and said no. They came back. I don't know of anybody else in the area that immediately rejected it, right? That people were, they were torturing themselves over the decision and should I, and phone calls and all this stuff. We said no, and 2 weeks later we got a letter back saying, okay, how about 98? Right? It wasn't 67 to 72 or something. It was 67 to 98 immediately. And at that point in time, we looked at our cost per visit, we looked at the math, and we said, do we want to accept it? We still had a margin. Our cost wasn't $98. The question now was, is the margin big enough? Does it make us happy? So, looking at it like the lemonade stand, I'm going to offer you $1.20 for the dollar cup. Are you going to sell it to me? Well, you do 1,000 of those, right? Sure, why not? I'm going to offer you 98 cents, but I'm going to bring other people. Well, if it's an intentional loss leader like the grocery stores or something like that, all right, I accept that. But what I see so much of the time is it's not intentional. It's exactly what Will said. It's out of fear. Blaine, what's up?
So 2 questions. So the first one, like if our clinic is already in network with all the insurances in the region,
Mhm.
would we have to go proactively, like go out of network to set our price points? And then the second question is that different for like Medicare and Medicaid? How you do that?
Let's go backwards. I never dealt with Medicaid. Medi-Cal here paid because the states administer it. So of course California rebrands it right as Medi-Cal. But it was like $13 a visit. So there was no way we were ever going to accept it. But I'd be losing a ton of money. Medicare, I don't know that you can. You'll have to talk to a compliance person. I'm not a compliance person, but there are issues around Medicare and opting out, and I'm not sure you can if you're in, or I don't know what the rules are. When you say proactive, what does that mean? Cancel the contract?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what you do. As long as you have signed that contract and it's in effect, you're bound under the terms of the contract, right? So yeah, if you don't like the contract, you opt out. Now it's not quite. It is that simple, and it's not that simple at the same time. One of the things Will and I've talked about in the past, and I think is super important for you guys as a process, the first step is you have to, and I know there are people who are like, oh, mindset is icky and I don't like it. Even my co-author's like, I don't do a lot of mindset, which is kind of not true. He does, but you first have to get your head around how valuable what you do is. Okay, and then you have to get that into the heads of your team, right? Get them out of the thought of a charge per visit and a transactional interaction and all that stuff. What do? You guys change people's lives, right? You literally allow them to stay in their homes independently. You enable them to play soccer at a competitive level. What you do with them, movement and activity and strength and flexibility every other way, is you change their lives. You allow them to go to a Division I school and compete, right? Or not. Or, there's so many things that you do. So you start thinking about the success stories that you guys have had with your patients and the people that in lives affected. And you start getting your head around that. And you look at, okay, on average, we see, I'm going to pick arbitrary numbers. We see people 12 visits. Right now we get $100. That's $1,200. Insurance, by the way, covers $800 of it. It's $400 so that they can play tennis again, or throw the ball with their grandkids, or climb the stairs and stay in their home. Is that worth $400? I mean, hands down, right? I still remember a time I went to dinner with a friend of mine who's a spine surgeon, Bobby Tag. Bobby was raised or his family came from Burma, and he was like, I'm going to take you to the best Burmese restaurant because you got to have it because it's awesome. We went there in his convertible Ferrari. Okay. And we got in there and I asked him, because he'd stopped sending his patients, Bobby, why don't you send his patients anymore? And he's like, well, you guys are too expensive. I'm like, dude, you just told me that the passenger handle on the door of your Ferrari costs $1,200 to fix. And then I broke down the numbers for PT. I'm like, is your shoulder worth $1,200?
Yeah. We don't have a cost problem. We've got a value problem. We don't understand the value of what we do as a profession. People here more than most get that. Carrie.
Yeah. Carrie, what's up?
Hold on. There we go. Sorry. I was just going to answer that question, Blaine, for you regarding Medicare. I just had a conversation with this at lunch today with a colleague who's doing mobile PT service, and PTs currently cannot opt out of Medicare. So you're either a participating or a non-participating provider. The difference between the two has to do with how much you're paid by Medicare and whether you accept assignment or not. Starts to get a little in the weeds there in the details. But the only way that you can see a Medicare patient and accept cash is if it is a non-covered service, like wellness fitness. But you can't see a Medicare patient and accept cash as a PT.
But that's a great segue right there too, Carrie, because this is something I'll challenge you to do. If you guys know who your target customer is, okay, and I do not mean the 40-year-old female, okay, cut that stuff out. It's not a demographic. Demographics don't describe people. People are different. You want a mindset, you want their behaviors, you want their psychology, you want, whatever that is for you, but someone who's highly motivated, who wants to take control of their health or whatever. Because what ends up happening when I go and talk to therapists, right? Like, oh, well, but it's everybody and it's all this. It's not everybody. It's the person that you're super happy is the last person on your schedule Friday afternoon, right? That you're excited to see before you leave for the weekend. It's the person on your schedule at 7:30 Monday morning that you're like, oh, yes, that's going to kick ass to start my week, with them. The confounding thing is in a society and in entrepreneurship, we try to define people by their age, income, gender, marital status, whatever, which none of that describes who they are as a person. So break that mold and go think about the psychographic, behavioral aspects of those people that you love, because they're going to be 11 years old and 17 and 83 and 47 and male and female and in between and whatever. And none of that other stuff matters, right? Because then once you start to figure out who they are and you can convey value and really work on changing their lives, they're going to love you. They're going to pay you. They're going to start to see and make that connection as well. Make it awesome for them.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Well, sorry, there was one more thought on that. Keep going, Carrie. I'll make a note.
Okay, what I was going to say is when you're in sort of a setting where you are a Medicare provider, you sort of kind of do twists and turns and back handsprings to try to make the case medically necessary. So you ask the patient, you're like, well, the patient says, hey, I want to go kayaking in Alaska. And you're like, well, that's not considered medically necessary according to the Medicare guidelines. So is there something that you can't do in your home? So then they say, something like, oh, my back hurts when I take the laundry out of the dryer or whatever. And you're like, okay, we'll use that. When you're on the other side and you're not a participating provider or non-participating provider for Medicare, you're doing the other thing. You're saying that's not medically necessary. So I can see you and I can accept cash for care. So as long as it's not medically necessary, as long as it is a non-covered service, you can accept cash from Medicare recipients. But if it's medically necessary, you cannot. So that's sort of the differential. And Jared Carter is the kind of the PT expert or one of the PT experts in this area. And he has his own consulting business to help if you want more details on that.
Thank you, Carrie. So Sturdy, we're getting down to the last 5-6 minutes. I have a couple things to go over. I would love it if you'd give your final thought for the next few minutes. I have a couple of important questions to ask the group before we close out. I'm a big time guy, so I like to start and end on time.
Sorry. Yeah.
But Sturdy, if you'd like to finish your final thought, that'd be great.
Well, so the whole point of that target customer is what's going to benefit them, what can they use? And going back to that idea, you guys are a knowledge-based profession, right? You're knowledge-based. It's your expertise that you bring that's of extreme value. What else could you offer them? So you've got all these other opportunities around classes and teaching and, kind of going down the road. Carrie was talking about it's quote unquote not medically necessary. So what? I can help you, with the kayaking and we can charge cash for that. You can offer value, and again, it doesn't matter what age they are. So I just hopefully want to get you guys start to thinking about the changes you make in people's lives, who you want to really work with, what you can bring to them, maybe other ways that kind of break the mold a little bit and get you outside of this transactional pay you for 15 minutes of your time kind of thing.
Love it. Guys, give Sturdy some love, please. He's done a fantastic job. to really highlight the concept here, and just to be really clear, there is no financial exchange between me and Sturdy if you hire him to work with you on it. But the big thing that he's helped people do, and I've seen it through clients, is drop their lowest paying insurance, and it's so much more than that. Like, I think what we need to do as a group is think about a movement hashtag or something that would really grip, like drop UHC, if that was possible. And so, at the end of the day, Sturdy is one who's really helped people increase their net profits in a way that I think promotes the industry dramatically. So feel free to reach out to him. I would also just say, what do you guys want on the, so we have another, I'm going to do these every month until you guys don't show up, and it won't hurt my feelings. It'll depress me a little, because it's like, I guess we don't care as much, or maybe I didn't create it powerfully, which whatever. The point is that I believe we can make a difference here, but what do we want to cover next? What is something that we can do? I will tell you right now, I think it would be very cool to continue this discussion as a group of like dropping our lowest paying insurance, just as kind of like one unified action of what we can do, talk it through, go through the problem solving, share the successes. I really wanted to pick William Hamilton Billy's mind on what he did, because he crushed it. And he also knew how much United Healthcare made last quarter, which I thought was impressive. I don't have that information at my fingertips, but I just really think there's stuff in there. Is there anything else in the last few minutes? Is there any sort of specific help you'd like, or any topics or any sort of actions that we could organize here that would help move our movement along?
I
Yes.
will.
Hey, Don.
I think one of the big pieces to physical therapy and where it's going tomorrow and into the future is going to be automation, AI technology, but just things to have PT in the forefront, and leading up to the technology, I think is going to be a big movement, especially maybe in 2025.
We literally talked about that the first 15 minutes in a way of like not creating the answer to your solution, but like more like just kind of setting the stage for you to make that comment perfectly, Don. That was great. So I love that. Anything else?
My question would just be like the logistics of dropping an insurance, because it seems like if you're the only one that dropped one, but no one else in town did, then I don't know that it would send much of a message. And it seems like you'd have to like band together with the other PTs in your region to make it effective.
Well, I would just say briefly that it would make a dramatic difference to your bottom line and to your kids, even if it doesn't impact the region and the other PTs.
Thank you, Will.
So
when you're,
go ahead, Sturdy.
well, I said this to Mark, one of the guys, right? Put a picture. This helped me when I was deciding whether to drop them or what to do or not. I put a picture of my family next to my computer, next to my desk. And when I looked at my cost per visit and a payer that I was literally paying $13 a visit to see those people, right? I looked at them and asked, is it fair to my kids? So I'm not trying to make a statement that's going to change the industry. There are going to be other people who take the contract. Fine. Can they do it profitably? If you're not doing it profitably, what are they doing differently?
I will tell you this, that if all we did was make decisions as individuals that promote the profitability of our clinic, we promote the industry. When you win, the industry wins, unless you're being unethical, in which case you wouldn't be on this call. So the whole point here, guys, is that if we take a stand for our business, we stand for the industry simultaneously. So next month, this is what we're going to do, because we got to wrap this thing up. We are going to talk more in details. I want to hear case studies and stories of people who've dropped insurances. We're going to talk about how to do that logistically. It'll be worth your time in gold to be on the next call. In addition, I want to put it out there that I have recently in my coaching been training my clients' teams. Last Friday, I was virtually in, where are they at? Some state. And I spoke to a bunch of, I've done this in Florida with Don's team. I love talking to your teams about how to think about money. I think that's part of your issue too, is like, how do you drop it and your PTs be like, oh, good for him. He's making more money for him. He's taking a stand for the industry. They don't think that. So I would be more than happy to do one of these town halls where it's more like a master class, where you invite all of your team members to attend. And I take a Q&A, but I'll do a little training in the front end, about 20 minutes of like, what does money mean to our industry? And I'm telling you, every time we've done this, people, their teams immediately go, oh, I get it now. They're not being about the money when they want me to hit a certain number of units per visit. So if you guys want that, I need to hear from you. I'm not going to put the work into this unless you want it. If you don't take the time to let me know you want it, I'm not going to do it. So please reach out if that's something you'd like for me to do. Minimally next month, we're going to talk more about how to drop insurance companies. We'd love to have you again, Sturdy, if you'd like to come.
Sure.
But guys, thank you all for being here. Super acknowledging the power of leaders in this room. Have a great rest of your night, and we'll see you guys next month. I'll send out an email immediately with our next meeting time. Thank you,
I did
guys.
see everything in the chat too for future topics. So we've got that recorded too. So yeah.
So,
and way
I'm
to
like
go,
so worried about
Katie,
being on
across
time,
the
Michelle.
white
Thanks for
sheet.
holding me accountable. Let me quickly just read through that real fast.
So Katie dropped UHC, so much better now.
Woo!
Yeah. Be first to market, challenge the status quo is from Donald. There's some other comments, Ty, around the collusion and being mindful around, that type of discussion when addressing payers that will come after us if we're coming as a unified single group. So just a thought for consideration. And just love the idea. Can we access entire population of young professionals that are too busy to physically attend PT via virtual visits? I think this could be a huge increase in revenue for PT practices. And that came from Billy. So
great contribution there, Billy. Love to get to see you next time. Okay, guys. So listen, just have a great rest of your day. It's been a pleasure to be with all of you. Hope you guys do well. Send me emails if you have ideas of what you want to cover in the future. Go make lots of money, but more importantly, change lives. We'll see you guys.
Thanks.
bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for being here.